Thanks for tuning in to our next podcast in this series. Justin Dunwoody and Corey Bayshore from Polaris Advisors. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about the power of compound interest in an investment program or retirement program. The first slide that we're going to put up for you guys today, really a pretty neat slide, and obviously Einstein was a sharp guy,
little dated.
Yeah, little dated, but he was ahead of his time actually. But we actually show this quite a bit. But what Einstein said a very long time ago: compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it. Just a great kind of quote from somebody a long time ago that was ahead of his time. That just to kind of really kick off the fact that this is probably one of the better, episodes we're going to do is really the power of time and how that can, impact you long term in an investment program.
Yeah, and I would add with that, we get the question all the time, especially given how expensive college costs are nowadays. Should I pay off my student loans? Before right. I start, saving or accumulating money for retirement. In an ideal world, you'd be able to do both. And I can speak, from experience there. I mean, I knew, the benefits and the power of compounding, being a finance and accounting major in college. So many of you may not have studied, any of those, topics, and can't say that I blame you. But I would just add, if you can do both, because there is no better benefit than time, when it comes to investing. And we're actually going to have a podcast series on, time and in the market, not time in the market. But the slide that we have up on the screen now, this is actually one of our favorites. And essentially, it speaks to time and starting early and the benefits of compounding. And we've got three different examples of folks saving for retirement. We have Michael. He was paying off his student loans. He was maybe partying a little bit. Was living, enjoying life, and then realized at 35, he's like, oh boy, I got to start saving for retirement here. He saves a little over $57 a week, assuming a hypothetical 7% rate of return. Some of you may ask, well, how realistic is that hypothetical rate of return? Over the last 50 years, the stock market has actually averaged 10%. Bonds have averaged 3%. So even if Michael used the balance allocation, he would have achieved a 7% rate of return.
Really pretty realistic assumptions
for
your average 35-year-old.
Yeah, and for sure.
Especially in like a 401k plan if you're deferring and having a match from your employer.
Yep. So if you look at his, the total contributions for Michael, $96,000, and by age 67, he accumulated $342,000. Great.
Looks good.
So we look at Ashley. So Ashley, kind of took our advice, tried to find a balance between, living life, paying off, student loan debt, and saving for the future. She started, right out of the gate at 21. However, changes in her life, she stopped saving for retirement at 35, maybe had children, left the workplace, who knows. So she only contributed for 14 years. She was saving the same amount as Michael, same rate of return. You can see that her total contributions were significantly less.
Less than half.
Yeah. But by age 67, she accumulated significantly more. Again, the benefits of compounding. She saved for 14 years prior to Michael even getting started. So Ashley, great job. And then kind of our scholar saver here, we have Courtney. So Courtney again took realized the benefits of compounding interest, got started early, and she continued to save all the way to retirement at age 67. So contributed over 46 years. So kind of magic math there. Michael did 32, Ashley did 14. You add those two together and you equal the number of years that Courtney saved. Same amount of money, same hypothetical return. Total contributions would equal what Ashley and Michael put away. But you'll notice that Courtney, and we probably should have maybe upped the contribution a little bit to $60, so they say she became a millionaire, but she was pretty close, $952,000. So she accumulated the combined total of what Michael and Ashley accumulated. So hopefully this example can help drive home the benefits of compounding interest. And Justin and I can tell you, it's not really the stock or the fund or that you select within, whether it's the 401k program here or outside investing. Yeah, certainly if you'd have bought Tesla in 2020, you've done really well. It's more the amount of time that you have to invest is your greatest benefit in saving for the future.
If you have time on your side, it doesn't take astronomical contributions. They're reasonable contributions that if you just do it long enough and kind of religiously make sure that you're contributing, given enough time, you can see that it accumulates to a significant amount.
Yeah, I mean, Courtney's example is, that's
it's very realistic.
Yeah, right? Especially when you consider, we're talking less than $60 a week when you add in employer match. Yeah, very realistic.
Yeah, and that segues into our next document that we're going to pop up on the screen for you guys. But there's a couple of them. We made one. They're kind of spreadsheets that we built, but we made one for somebody that makes around $35,000. The next one is somebody that makes $50,000. I think that's probably best for this group that will slide down to the $50,000 one. But it goes right in line with what we just talked about with those three folks. Is the contributions are actually really similar. If you're putting away, if you make $50,000, you're socking away 6% in your 401k, same hypothetical 7% rate of return. A 35-year-old, if they retire at 65, just without making any adjustments or changes, almost has $750,000 by the time they go to retire at 65. And in turn, if you're taking about 4% out of that each year, you're going to get yourself about almost $30,000 a year in income from that. And again, that's a really realistic. It's not a contribution that would affect your lifestyle really in any way.
It never increased. Yeah.
You never increased it, and that's a great point. That's why we built this. Is on the other side there is what if you actually increased this contribution by 1% a year? If you're normally getting a cost of living adjustment or a raise or something like that, just our kind of ask to everybody is, do you need the 2% or 3% raise? Why don't you just pocket 1%? Take 1% and push it towards your retirement plan. And you can see just by increasing that by 1% a year, and we just had it cap out at 12%, which is a pretty good contribution, plus the employer match at 3.5%. Mm-hmm. You can see in like 5 years, you're putting in almost double because you just made that small incremental change, 1% more each year. But down at the bottom, we're actually well over $1 million. We're almost $1.1 million by making that small incremental change that you probably didn't notice, quite honestly. And again, it's just the power of time. If we can get the more contributions we can get in early and allow that to earn interest and compound on itself, it just kind of works itself out over time. And now this person, in retirement is creeping up on $45,000 a year of just interest income off their 401k, and hopefully they have done some other things when they might have Social Security, hopefully, sitting around by that point that they can kind of recreate their income at that point.
Yeah, and this is, and both of these, examples they're the Michael examples, right?
Right.
We're showing you not start until 35. So either of these, and especially the one with increasing contributions, if we were
at 22.
Yeah, if we were using, Courtney, and having you starting at 21, or even Ashley, who started at 21, although she stopped at 35, but starting at age 21, you would be getting, to the point where you're replacing 70 to 80% of your pre-retirement income, which is really the goal. People don't want to change their lifestyles, when they retire. And I would add, as a rule of thumb, why the increase in contributions, like Justin mentioned. As you're getting incremental increases in salary, enjoying some of that, fruit of your labor, but also, putting back, more of that. And in this example, it took till age 41 to get to where you're putting away 15%, because we're counting the employer match in that, which I would tell everybody, the rule of thumb when I started or entered the workforce is very different than what the rule of thumb is nowadays. It's more like 15 to 20%. People are living longer. Healthcare costs are much higher. Of course, we've got a lot of inflation. Hopefully you don't have that when you get to retirement. And then the concerns about, Social Security system and the sovereignty of that system. So that's where the rule of thumb that you need to be putting away 15 to 20%. Doesn't mean you got to put it all on the 401k, but that's the rule of thumb as far as saving to replace your income in retirement, so you don't have to adjust your lifestyle when you get to that point.
Great. Well, that kind of ends our episode on the powers of compounding. I hope you enjoyed it, and stay tuned for the next one.